morning, people. Welcome to the weekly... I'll keep saying the weekly football review show. It's not the weekly football review show anymore. We have many a show on Two Up Top. It's myself, Gav Mack, and Alex Osborn, and we're breaking down game day 31, the midweek fixtures in the Premier League. Alex, how are you, dude?
Very well, thank you very much. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. Just trying to make dreams work, you know. That's how we always work. So, on today's show, Liverpool, they are 2 points from glory after their sumptuous victory yesterday against Crystal Palace. We'll also be talking about the VAR situation at Spurs because it came into play a couple of times and there are a couple of talking points on that. Bruno Fernandes and Paul Pogba, their relationship together, because that seemed to work in the game against Sheffield United, and our regular section of what are Everton. Right then, so let's start with Liverpool. Why the hell not? They cruised to a 4-0 victory against Crystal Palace. You'll be able to see the graphic on the bottom of the screen of the goal scorers there. Trent Alexander-Arnold after 23 minutes. Mo Salah just before half-time. Fabinho with a strike about 10 minutes after the restart. And then halfway through the second half, Sadio Mane bagged as well. But Crystal Palace, they started off the game very defensive minded, you know, sort of like a 4-5-1 formation. They didn't every time they got the ball, they pretty much were just giving it back to Liverpool. What did you think of the Palace setup initially?
Well, it's not surprising because that's how Roy Hodgson goes about with his teams. You look at the Premier League table and you look at the amount of goals that have been involved in Crystal Palace's games, and it's not a lot. They don't concede many, but they conversely don't score very many either. So, and also you've got to think their main man, the main goal threat, the one that all their play comes through, didn't play in the match either because he pulled up sort of lame in the warm up. But from what I understand, it was apparently they had a half an eye that it was going to happen anyway because he'd been carrying a knock coming into it.
There wasn't much shock, was there, when he came off, was there?
Sahar.
Yeah, there wasn't much shock, really, when he pulled up injured. It was like, oh, okay, we're expecting that.
Yeah, so I'm not surprised the way that Crystal Palace set up at all. I mean, they probably would have set up very similar with him anyway.
Very true. The first goal was a free kick from Trent Alexander-Arnold. It's probably one of the best free kicks I've seen in a long time. Just the way that he was able to just get it over the wall, just the right length and out of the reach of the goalkeeper. What did you think of the free kick?
Beautifully struck. He scored free kicks of that ilk before, and he'll probably score quite a few of them before his career is done. He's got a very... The way he takes his free kicks is the way that he crosses the ball. He tries to aggressively whip it and commit to it. And yeah, you'll get the occasional one where it will go over the bar. He won't get it. But more times than not, with the way that his technique is and his confidence in him striking the ball, he will score a lot of free kicks. Very similar to David Beckham. Yeah, in that regard. He was so confident in his ability to score from a set piece like that he will definitely get his fair share of goals by the time his career is done, barring obviously any major injuries and stuff.
Mo Salah back just before half time, but for me, the pick of the goals was Fabinho and his strike, just the way he took it out of his feet. You know, like when you're watching the screen and you're sort of looking away. The first, I was on a minute, is he having a free kick? Just the way the ball sort of stopped dead before he laced it, and the keeper once again had no chance.
All four goals that Liverpool scored last night were all of them were pretty good in their own ways. And Fabinho's was the pick of the bunch. Yeah. In terms of a pure goal, as in a finish, a strike, then yeah, he was the best of the bunch. And the way the noise when the ball hit the back of the net, and that was a lovely little noise.
It's funny because we were talking about the best sounds that we like. One of my favourite sounds in the world is an ice cold beer can being cracked open. But my second favourite sound is just hearing the ball hit the onion bag. That sound is just like, yeah, where's the Kleenex? The fourth goal was from Mane, and I loved the way he finished it. It reminded me a lot of Thierry Henry, you know, just opening the body up and just stroking it into the bottom corner.
It wasn't just that; it was the whole move. It was the ball. Palace had the ball down the left-hand side, I know, and Andros Townsend gave the ball away, and the ball was sort of rolling to Mane, and he was at sort of an awkward position. He managed to dig it out of his feet and played a lovely little passing field to Firmino, and then he set off on his run. Firmino then played it on to Salah, who then with his right foot, so not his strong foot, his right foot, first time ball defense splitting pass was incredible. Inch perfect, rolled into Mane's path, and then, as you say, great finish that Mane put onto to finish it off. A lovely sweeping move, which shows that you don't need to have 50 passes to score a goal.
No.
As long as it's quick, one touch, incisive passing, you can get there. And you finish it off quite nicely.
Now, 6 goals is scored in a row against Crystal Palace for Mane. He's been on absolute fire against that club. But
so, as far as I'm aware, he still hasn't lost a league game at home whilst playing for Liverpool either, has he?
That's right. And Liverpool have won every single game at home in the league this season. So they are champions elect, and they will be crowned champions tonight if Man City fail to beat Chelsea, which is live on BT Sport tonight at 8:15. Chelsea versus Man City. Can Man City delay the inevitable?
Yeah, I think Man City will win tonight. Man City have come out of this break on fire. They're back fully fit.
minus Aguero.
But I was just saying, it's funny how this break has managed to get clubs fully fit, and then there's some clubs who within 2 games of like half their squad is broken. They're signing aging players, but let's forget about that club for a second.
We'll come on to them a bit later on.
Man City, yeah, I as good as Chelsea are, and they looked pretty good against Villa. I know they only won 2-1, but I think that scoreline flattered Aston Villa a little bit, to be honest with you. And the way that Chelsea are certainly making some moves in the transfer market with promise of more to come, I still think Man City. Personally, I still think Man City are the best team in the Premier League, as in best first 11. Unfortunately, they just have had a couple of injuries to the wrong players and poor squad depth, in those areas, namely centre half, which has meant that Liverpool have romped away with the title. But I tell you what, I would have loved to have seen the coming back from the break, and if that gap had been less than 10 points, I think Man City would be well on to Liverpool here. But I can't see past Man City win tonight. Cue them to lose 2-0.
Oh yeah, definitely. We've got all our predictions horribly wrong so far, but I'll blame it on lockdown rather than anything else. You mentioned that they've got one of the best squads, like starting 11s. One team who I think I'll probably say have the 3rd best starting 11 is Wolves, and just the way they do things. Wolves, they beat Bournemouth 1-0 with Raul Jimenez bullet header from Adama Traore's cross. Wolves, I don't think I'll get bored of watching Wolves play football anytime soon. And one player who I really, really enjoy is Pablo Neto.
Okay.
He's a young lad, and he's looking like he's been playing for the last 10 years. His opportunity right at the end, I was devastated that he didn't score that. He's picked the ball up from about 20 yards inside his own half and just bodied people and just swept it wide.
I know he had the goal. I know he had the goal wrong, very harshly ruled out before the break against Liverpool, didn't he, for VAR? Yes. That was a bit conscientious, but I haven't seen enough of him to really make a full comment. All I do know is that Wolves have got a very strong first 11, and it's playing out how I kind of thought it would with them, because they don't have the European distraction, and that's going to come after the Premier League season will finish.
That's right.
They can just solely focus on the Premier League, and as it's shown before the break, they've drawn quite a lot of games, but I think they've won every single game since they've come back, haven't they? Wolves, or both games since they've come back, and I can't see that sort of stopping. I will say this though. I know we haven't got onto them yet, but if Manchester United start the same team that they did last night, I think they've got a better starting 11 than Wolves have, because that Man United team that was playing last night looked very, very good and very gelled, very and it got the best use out of Pogba as well. But we'll get on to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, we definitely will. Just for the record, we are live on YouTube at the moment. Make sure you follow our channel and subscribe to our stuff, like our stuff. And it's a very, very warm day. So as you can see, I am recording from the garden. But someone's cutting the lawn, so if you do hear something in the background, that's exactly what it is. Bournemouth, I want them to stay up, but they were second best yesterday. They were third, fourth, fifth best yesterday. They weren't at the races at all, were they?
No, I think Bournemouth. I fear for Bournemouth, and I think it's sort of reflecting on Eddie Howe. I don't want to keep harping on about it, but I just don't think he's as good a manager as what he's potentially made out to be. Personally,
yeah, I can see where it is with that, but
because injuries are not an excuse at the moment.
Injuries aren't an excuse anymore, no.
And they're still losing games, and as you say, they're not even in the games either.
Yeah, I expected them to do more against Palace. I really did. I wasn't expecting them to pick up a result yesterday against Wolves, just because of the type of side that Wolves are. But I still expected them to put up some form of fight.
That's the other thing. They're not competing. That's the other thing as well, which could mean one of two things. One, that the players are just not good enough, and we maybe have to reevaluate that. Or two, the players aren't playing for Eddie Howe anymore. Or it could be a combination of two, or it might be even a third reason. But in those situations when the players aren't even competing, or it doesn't even, I know the scoreline didn't reflect the fact that it was such a huge gulf between the teams, but there was, if you watched it.
Oh, 100%.
Those two would normally be the reasons why, that the players are either not good enough or they're not playing for Eddie Howe. Either way, it doesn't reflect good on him.
No, I agree. Bournemouth, there's a good chance those going down. A very important point picked up for Aston Villa, though, yesterday. Newcastle won, Aston Villa won. The goals came from Dwight Gale, who'd only been on the pitch for 90 seconds. And then El Mohammadi.
Yeah, by Andy Carroll, I believe it was.
I think it was, yeah. And then
I think I heard a phrase on the radio saying a fit again Andy Carroll. I was like, well, things that have been said like a million times before.
Yes, very true.
Then he's injured a week later. So yeah,
I don't know how long. I wonder what the odds are on Andy Carroll lasting until the end of the season.
They'd be pretty high.
I would have thought so. It might be worth putting a cheeky tenner on that. El Mohammadi, he got the equaliser with 7 minutes to go from a corner. He'd only just come on the pitch. A little bit of history made yesterday as well in the Premier League. The first time that 5 substitutions were made at the same time by one club in the Premier League. That might be a quiz question in the future. Put that out for Harold Al just in case.
Because Man United did it as well. Manchester United did it as well, and weren't they playing at the same time as the Newcastle Villa game?
Oh yeah, so we need to work out what time the substitution was made.
Exactly, yeah. Ooh. So because I know Manchester United did it quite late on. I think it did it around about the 78th minute. So it'd be interesting to that Newcastle, or when that substitution happened in the Newcastle game.
Very true. The goalkeeper, Dubravka, I really like him. I think he's one of the best goalkeepers outside the top. The top 6, so to speak, in the Premier League. But it was an absolute howler that he made yesterday. That header didn't really have much power. You could argue that there was a man in front of him, but that's gone underneath him and trickled into the back of the net. That's a big mistake that was made by him.
I'm not so hot on him as you are. I think he's just an okay goalkeeper. But yeah, that was a pretty bad howler for a Premier League goalkeeper. Well, actually, no, for a Championship League One player, let the goalkeeper
You're savage. Manchester United, as we alluded to before, they played beautifully yesterday. That felt to me like the Man United of old. That's the Manchester United that we need to expect. And they won 3-0 against Sheffield United. A hat-trick from Martial, the first player to score a hat-trick for Manchester United since Robin van Persie in the 2012-13 season. what were your thoughts on the performance as a whole from Manchester United? And then we'll talk about Bruno and Pogba together.
So it was a very, very solid performance, and I don't even think Man United were playing at their best, nowhere near it. But they managed to dispatch Sheffield United quite easily, and the break in the season has come at the absolute worst time for Sheffield United. They just
hasn't it?
All of their momentum. They lost all of their sort of automatic play, if you want to call it that, because as I say, Sheffield United, I think more than anybody else in the league, relies so much on their system that they have in place, because their system is able to make the sum of their parts greater than their whole, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because again, you probably look at their team and it's not exactly filled with players of quality, certainly by elite standards.
No, they never have been. That's the thing. What they've got the team unit rather than star-studded players.
And obviously, they've bought into what Chrissy Wilder has been sort of preaching to them, and we've mentioned that several times. It's worked beautifully, but this break in play has obviously just broken that up a little bit. And as you know, top flight football, you only need to be off by a couple of percent, and you'll start losing games, not winning games, when you were drawing and winning them before. So, yeah, I think that was a very good result for Manchester United yesterday. Martial looking very, very good.
He looked like a real number 9 yesterday, didn't he?
He did. He was pressing. He was holding the ball up. He was running in behind defenders. He's running in the channels. Rashford was looking dangerous and direct and threatening from the left-hand side. And then, as we say, if we get onto Bruno and Pogba.
Yes. There's been a lot of argument about whether those two can play together or not. And I think yesterday proved it.
I think it all depends on Pogba's ego. And the reason I say this, I think you've mentioned before, when Pogba plays for France, he's a completely different player. It's like, where's this Pogba? Why has he not been playing for Man United? I think the Pogba who plays for France has played a slightly different role, asked to do slightly different things as at Manchester United. So when he was at France, he's been asked to play a little bit deeper. He can ping a pass. He's got pretty much most passes in the book. Ping it long, on the half volley, first time. He can take a touch, slow it down. He can cross-field ball. He can just pop it off here and there, 5-yard passes. And that was on display last night because Bruno is now your creator, as in like your advanced, if you want to call him your advanced playmaker, if you want to call him your advanced attacking midfielder, whatever you want to call him. Trick or Tista going into
I love Trick or Tista.
Going into your football manager terminology here, but he's your one who's right there behind the trying to find the pockets in between the opposition's midfield and defence. And what Manchester United need is a player to find him in those positions, and that's what Pogba was doing beautifully yesterday. And I saw a couple of comments from some friends of ours and other people online asking what Pogba did during the match, and if they were asking that, they weren't really watching, because as I say, Pogba was progressing the play from a deeper zone on the field, being able to find Bruno in those pockets of space before Sheffield United could fully organise themselves. And when they were doing that, Bruno was then being able to turn and have a bit of space going at just the defence rather than having to go through 2 lines of defence, if that makes sense.
I think the key was having Matic holding.
Yeah.
And it's very important to, if you've got 2 players of the quality of Pogba and Bruno, you can't have a namby-pamby, like one of those like soft touch midfielders. Let's say if you bring into Arsenal, if you've got, just say if it was Pogba and Bruno Fernandes at Arsenal, you couldn't have Guendouzi behind. He's not that type of player. And
it would have to be Xhaka.
It has to be a midfield general, a midfield enforcer who's going to break up the play, chop people, and then they can find that little like 2-3 yard pass to find a Pogba, who will then be able to do whatever he needs to do to find a Bruno Fernandes. That's the type. Leicester have the perfect setup. We've spoken about Leicester many times on the show before. Leicester have the perfect 6-8-10 situation in the midfield. And if you're not quite sure what we mean by 6-8-10, six. We go by shirt numbers. Number 6 is your midfield general. Your number 8 is your box to boxer who's got a little bit of creativity, and your number 10 is your can be a second striker, could be a man who just plays in behind the fault of the front line, and Leicester have the perfect balance in the middle of the park when Ndidi, Tielemans, and Maddison are all fit at the same time, and that's what Manchester United need. So when they are looking for a new player, because I think they're only 2 or 3 players off being a challenging side again, they need someone like an Ndidi. That an Ndidi would absolutely transform Manchester United, and another centre half. I think that's all they need.
Potentially transform them actually even more so than Ndidi. I got Thomas Partey from Atletico Madrid.
Yeah.
That Pogba as your 2 sort of, if you want to call it, fielders, that would be quite formidable and actually quite scary for the rest of the Premier League. I'll be honest with you, but again, it all depends on Pogba. You know, it all depends on if he can lay his ego. You know, I mean, there's no shame in saying he's got a bit of an ego. You have to have one at that kind of level of football, but going to be okay enough being the deeper lying player, so he's not going to get as many goals or many assists, many high-worthy plays.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to want to be. Is he going to want to? I mean, that's going to be to Manchester United. But if he can play in the more disciplined role that he did yesterday and pop, still beat 1 or 2 players and then launch the attack. That was evidenced by the 3rd goal yesterday. I mean, the ball from Pogba into Bruno was beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
And then, as you say, Bruno being the player that he is, he flicked it first time behind him, straight to Martial. And from there, Sheffield United were in danger because they just couldn't, because of the quickness, they just couldn't set themselves back. There in the defence for Rashford to then find him. And yeah, it was a lovely finish. So it all depends, I think, on if Pogba can not be egotistical enough to then realise, hang on, if I play in this position that Ole wants me to, then Man United will be in contention to win the league next year. There's no doubt.
I honestly think they can. Right then, it's our time for our favourite section.
What's our Everton?
Yes, it's what's our Everton. Norwich 0, Everton 1. The goal came from Keane, Michael Keane, with a header from a corner. Everton are leading the league in goals scored from corners. That's 10 goals they've now scored from corners. And bottom of the league is Norwich with 10 goals conceded from corners. So when you see a corner coming in and you've got big players like Yerry Mina or in this case Michael Keane, we already know what the outcome's going to be.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that Everton were the best, scored the most goals from. Is it just specifically corners, or is it
from corners?
Corners. Okay, so I had no idea. When you say you've got player, we saw in the World Cup a couple of years ago, Mina was a threat. Michael Keane, he's a big lad as well. So you've got players like that. I think Richarlison's pretty decent in the air as well. Actually,
very good in the air. He went through a period, didn't he, where he scored like five headed goals in like 6 games or something, didn't he?
Yeah. So they've certainly got firepower in the air, and if I'm not surprised actually about Norwich though. I don't recall too many dominating tall players that they have in their first team. So I wouldn't. That doesn't shock me that they're the worst team from corners in terms of.
Yeah, I'll just look at Norwich. Hey, look, I'm old school, and I'm a big believer in if you've got a corner, you've got to get men on the posts. I know that there's zonal marking and things. Everyone wants to do the zonal marking stuff nowadays, but if you're zonal marking, you can still stick your fullback on the front post or the far post, depending whether it's an in-swinger or an out-swinger. If there's a man on the post, that ball was in the air for a very long time when it left Michael Keane's head. You've got enough time to get on the post, spark a fag, pour a brandy, and then tip the ball away. but there was just no one there. It was just so static. It was poor from Norwich, and I look at that, and I watched the game yesterday, and you know, like the break where the water break that they have, the second half water break. I was seeing Valko having a chat with the players, and I don't know what else he can say to try and get a tune out of them, because I look at Norwich, I don't think they played that badly at all yesterday, but that was in the middle of the park. As soon as they got into the front line, it was just snuffed out. I don't know whether that's really good defending from Everton or just poor quality from Norwich, but I can't see how Norwich are able to pick up a point now, because when the first game back, yeah, they've got Arsenal next week, so that's 3 points for them. I look at the first game back when they played against Southampton, and the first 10-15 minutes they got right in the Southampton faces, and they looked like they were really up for it. And then after that 10-minute period at the beginning of the game, it's almost like they burnt all their energy in that first 10 minutes, and they just lack backbone, they lack leadership. They had injuries at the beginning of the season. It's funny because they were picking up results when they had the injuries. So the injuries isn't an excuse either. Look, I'll tell you what. Let's not bag on Norwich too much. Let's look at Everton. We always take the mick and say, "What's our Everton?" But Norwich might not have been able to do what they did because of Everton's superiority yesterday.
I think I know we this is kind of a running joke amongst this show, is the "What Are Everton" section. Obviously, he's even got his own little theme song. But Everton are actually, they've got some decent players, and you know, they drew the first game against Liverpool. They've now won this game now, so they've picked up 4 points in return. With some good recruitment in the summer, and you know, we just spoke about this before the break, about Carlo Ancelotti being a pull for players. They're going to want to come and join Everton because he's the manager there. Watch your space. Everton might finally come out of What Are Everton and start becoming an actual club to take seriously. So I think if I was an Everton fan, I'd actually be cautiously optimistic about what's to come.
Yeah, there can be change in Merseyside. Well, not that far, you know. It's not going to be the Everton of the 80s, but you never know. Let's go and have a look at some Tuesday games. Round up the rest of Tuesday's games. Leicester 0, Brighton 0. I don't think there's really much to talk about that game at all. It's probably the worst game of football I've seen since lockdown, and that includes the Belarusian Premier League, which I started to get involved in. There was nothing going on in that game. Leicester, that's 1 win in 7 Premier League games now for them. And yeah, that is it. The only real talking point of that game was Justin's challenge on Connolly, which resulted in a penalty. Neil Mopai could have made it 2-2. Relatively good penalty, but I think it was a good save. It looked comfortable, but I think for how hard Mopai hit it, it was actually quite a good save from Schmeichel. And that is all we could say about that game. Right, Tottenham, they were 2-0 winners at home to West Ham. West Ham were actually the first team to score an away goal against Spurs and the first team to pick up a victory against Spurs in their new stadium. So even though West Ham's form hasn't been that great, I think they might have had a little bit of confidence going into this game with that in mind, but Spurs were just way too good for them.
Yeah, it wasn't really a contest, that game. Harry Kane got himself back on the score sheet, but he still looks quite woefully off the pace to me. Yeah,
the goals came from Souček. Souček with an own goal. Well, before that, it was just before half time. Heung-min Son thought he scored the opener, but unfortunately it was ruled out for offside. It was a very hairline situation, so VAR got that decision correct. However, Spurs did open the scoring, and with Souček own goal, the corner came in. It looks to have come off the arm of Davinson Sanchez before going into the back of the net. VAR had a look at that, and they didn't do anything about it. What do you think about that?
I think it needs to be cleared. If we can all remember, cast our minds back to the start of this current season. I know that was all a long time. Remember that game against Manchester City where Man City thought they'd scored the winner with Gabriel Jesus against Spurs at the City of Manchester Stadium, and then it got ruled out because as the corner came in, was it Laporte's arm, because he missed his header and it just happened to hit his arm on the way through. So, and that goal was disallowed. Yet, as you say, the ball hit Davinson Sanchez's arm in the lead up to the goal, the first goal on Tuesday, and I seem to have lost Gav's. I seem to have lost Gav. I don't know if they can still hear me, but basically, it needs to be looked at, that law, because it seems to be very inconsistent as far as I'm concerned. I can't hear you. I can't hear you, Gav.
Hoping there's a little bit of sound going on there now.
There we go.
There we are. So apologies about that, but you know, that's what happens in technology. It happens on the telly all the time. So as we were mentioning, Harry Kane, he got the second goal, which put the game to bed. Now for Harry Kane, I reckon that would have, not saying that he was lost any confidence at all, but he only came back from injury. He was out for 6 months. He didn't score at the weekend and was able to get on the score sheet on Tuesday night.
Yeah, and maybe it's going to take him a few games to find his fit, which will coincide with the end of the season, and then he'll have another break before the new season. But I hope so. I hope he hasn't, these injuries that he's had piling up is going to take something away from him, because he still looks a yard or two off the pace.
He does. I'm sure it won't be too long before he gets himself back into the form that we all know of Harry Kane. Monday night saw Manchester City smash Burnley to pieces, 5-0. You might have seen on the Monday night show that myself and the handsome Greek Adam Harrell, we thought it was going to be 3-0. And it was a very comfortable game, but as soon as it went 3-0 to Man City, I was thinking, is it going to be 6 or 7 today? I don't think there's any blame on Burnley whatsoever. I think it's more the case of Man City just looking the absolute part. One player who stood out and has been standing out for a couple of years, but is just waiting and desperately waiting for his opportunity to get a regular run in the games, is Phil Foden. 2 goals from him and just an all-round 10 out of 10 performance.
Pretty much involved in all of the goals yesterday, whether he got the assist or scored, or whether it was just, I'd say, involved in all the goals. I think the heartening thing for Man City fans who want to see their breakthrough, England fans, because Phil Foden is English, was the comments made by Guardiola afterwards, where he was asked about Phil Foden, and but he mentioned, I think they were asked about David Silva, would they be going to the transfer market to replace him? And he was like, I've told the board that we don't need to make any investment there because we have Phil Foden coming through. He will certainly be looking to take in that place. Pretty much just what he said, didn't he? So I think
I was really hoping it's not lip service.
as long as he sticks to that word, then United City will obviously spend elsewhere. But yeah, I think which goal was it? I can't remember. I think it was he got the what the Americans over in the MLS call the assist to the assist.
Yes. See, yeah. This
played that reverse pass, and it gave everybody the eyes. Not quite the no-look pass because he still looked at it where he was going in the end, but it was gorgeous. It absolutely Burnley.
He did that, and I was like, "This is the guy."
Yeah,
this is the guy. Now, kids nowadays, I blame kids. They care so much about goals and assists, and if you're trying to tell players about, tell people about a particular player, it's like, oh yeah, but he didn't score many goals, or he didn't get many assists. It's like, stop looking at the stats of that and look at the actual game and look what that player or whatever contributes to it. One of those key factors is Bobby Firmino. I just need to say about Bobby Firmino. He hasn't scored a goal at home in the Premier League this season. His contribution is still so key to what Liverpool do. You don't always have to score or get an assist to have a good performance and be an integral part of the side. And I really hope that going forwards, Phil Foden isn't judged for that. I mean, like, his goal scoring record so far has been brilliant. But what I don't want to happen is he gets a run of 10 games, he doesn't score any goals, he doesn't get any assists, and then people are going to be getting on his back. But it's things like that, the assist to the assist, and the key link-up play in the middle of the park. That is what you need from your from someone like Phil Foden.
Yeah, as long as when you watch, this goes actually to players you mentioned about if they're not getting goals and assists, but okay, depending on what their role is in the team and what they're being asked to do. So the way Man City use their two more attacking centre they are actually tasked with getting goals and assists because the way the City play. Now, with Liverpool, and you mentioned Bobby Firmino's role, he's more of a supporting role. So yeah, he's a striker. Yeah, they do want him to score some goals, but he is not their main goal threat. He is there to make space, heal the defenders' play, and then play in the threats from Mane and Salah.
Exactly that.
Now, so it needs to be taken into context, and that's where you can use your eye when you watch the games to understand what they're being asked to do within the team's framework. Now, if Foden goes for a period, if he does get his chance next year on a regular basis, and he's not getting himself in positions to score and create goals, then that's when you should start to question it because of the way the City play, unless they have next year. But anybody who watches you can understand what a special talent Phil Foden has and the potential he's got because it's very European.
Yeah.
It's not what you class as a English player, would you? Who Dutch Thunder, Stevie Gerrard, kind of all-action hero, kind of hitting first time passes, hit the ball 50 yards, the glory pass every time. He's very much not that kind of player. He's more.
He's Spanish, isn't he? He's like if he came out of La Masia, you'd be like, oh yeah, I can see that.
Exactly, and I think that is. I think he is certainly a reflection of the new focus that they have eventually put into footballers, grassroots coaches at English level. Kind of like the Germans did 20 odd years ago, and the Spanish, I don't know how long ago they did it. But England have finally caught up. This is where we mentioned about, we did link to our top five here when we said about biggest waste of money, and I said about Wembley. Imagine if England the FA hadn't spent all that money on Wembley, how many of these new types of players would we have got by now because they'd been receiving this type of coaching a lot earlier rather than last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, no, I see that for sure. I think the telling point is next season if we see Phil Foden in a new shirt number.
Exactly.
If he's got a lower shirt number, we know that is hanging around and he means business. If he's still got number 47 on the back of his shirt next season, I think he needs to have a look at a move. And I think someone like a Dortmund would be a perfect move for him. Or even, I reckon he could go to Spain. I honestly think he'll be able to. He wouldn't be starting, but I look at Barcelona's midfield right now, and the midfield three isn't the midfield three as it used to be anymore. So someone like him could go over and be the start of a new midfield three that can dominate European football and world football in years to come. I think Phil Foden is that good.
Yes. Him and Sancho are very, very are probably the poster boys for this new English generation. From that 17s World Cup winners. We haven't really seen much of Callum Hudson-Odoi recently, but there with him. Both Sancho and Foden are very. We look at them and they're not typical English players because they're comfortable on the ball. They're very creative. They're very technical. They're very, as I say, very.
They're very intelligent. You know, in terms of both players for me, Sancho and Foden. It's like they've been playing football for the last 15, 20 years at top level. They seem that good and that ahead of the game.
It's a testament to City's academy as well and their coach. Not a testament to the fact that they let Sancho go because he wanted and he felt he was good enough for first team football, and he's proved that right. If he hadn't have gone, would he be starting for City now? Is the question.
That's a good question. Would he actually be starting for City now? Let's say it's Aguero or Jesus through the middle. Sterling on one side. Would it be Sancho on the other side, or would you rather have Sane?
I mean,
tough one, isn't it?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one because Sane's your more typical winger kind of player, isn't he? He's your I'm going to get round the byline.
Yeah, I'm just going to hug the touchline.
Get behind you. I can score a goal, but I can get behind you and beat a man and get a cross in. Sancho's your more wide playmaker type, so he'll beat a man one-on-one with his skill, but he doesn't quite have the top level pace. But he's very good at passing. You know, to the right decisions, and he's like he puts the right pace on his passes as well.
Yeah.
Meaning that when it comes to the receiving player, they're not rushed or they don't. It's never a hospital pass, you know, that type of thing. So if they want to hit the football first time for a shot, they can do. If it's on the right, if they're right-footed, it'll be to their right foot. That kind of thing. So he's more of your wide creator, isn't it? And that's kind of what you want from your wingers. You want two different style of wingers, don't you? Which is why City do quite well, because Sterling's he's almost like a striker.
He's like a second striker, isn't he? Yeah.
He'll get himself into the 6-yard box in front of the goal and score those goals. Then was like, oh well, Sterling, he scores tap-ins all the time. What skill is there to that? Well, the skill is him getting into those positions in the first place, and still able to finish it. Because just because you get yourself into the place doesn't necessarily mean that's a guaranteed goal. You still have to finish the ball, as Rashford with that chance he had yesterday wasn't able to. Even though I think that was a slightly more difficult chance than what he was given credit for. And then you've got on the other wing is you've got your traditional winger, a guy who will beat your man and he'll get the ball into where Sterling is. So you want variety in your wingers. So going back to Sancho, he'd probably be in the rotation, but he certainly probably wouldn't be as far along in his development as he is right now.
I think I can be heard.
I can hear you, Gav.
Yeah.
Just can't.
I just can't be seen at the moment. So Alex, it's just your face on the screen at the moment. So Burnley versus Watford, and once again, apologies for the connection issues there. As I said, it happens on the telly with the big corporations. So yeah, you know, we're just trying to see what we could do as well. But yeah, so Alex, Burnley versus Watford tonight. Can Burnley bounce back?
We've seen time and time when they have received a bit of a pasting, mental resolve, mental character is actually pretty strong. Short is team believe in themselves to have no issue there. However, I think Watford are feeling pretty good about themselves as well, based on form and you know how you are like humans. You know, get the fact that they're football players. Obviously, they're humans first and foremost. You do kind of carry what happened to you previously into your next game, and I would probably fancy Watford in this. To be honest with you, based on the fact that Watford are probably in slightly better form.
Yeah, well, they bounced back after the Leicester game. You know, it went a great game to watch. To be honest, at the weekend, Leicester versus Watford, but when you go a goal down on the 90th minute. You normally just put your heads down and fall apart, but Watford didn't do that. They were able to say, do you know what? We can still do something, and they got a wonderful equaliser as well. So I think you're right. That will give them the confidence to go into tonight and think, right, we could get a result here against Burnley, and I think they will. I think it'll be a tight one, but I think we're looking at like a 1-0. And then the other game is Southampton versus Arsenal. Now, Southampton, according to the bookmakers, are favourites for this game.
Well, where have you been with this? I mean, to be fair, I'm not surprised because Southampton have actually got a pretty good record meeting between the sides. Actually, I don't think Arsenal have actually done well against them for a couple of seasons now.
Definitely not at their place.
I think, I don't know if he has been, but I have seen news that apparently Granit Xhaka will be back in contention. If he is, that is a big plus for Arsenal because, as far as I'm aware, all of Arsenal's victories this season have involved Granit Xhaka.
Which is funny.
When he hasn't played, Arsenal have done poorly, which I know we've not been the biggest of fans of him in the past, but I think certainly this season he has started to show a bit. He showed when he first joined. Since that money on him
since the meltdown, he has been. Since he's come back, he's been arguably Arsenal's best player.
Yes. I certainly think so. I think what is shown as well was that he has a good engine on him. He does bring a bit of bite to midfield. Okay, sometimes he'll go overboard. Yeah, granted, but he's competitive. He's got, as I say, he's got good positional awareness. If he's given clear instructions to sort of go with, maybe previous management, he wasn't quite sure of his role, his positioning, where he wants to be on the pitch. But he'll be a big plus. However, Leno, obviously, we got the news that his injury is not as bad as first feared,
which is good.
Which is good news. However, what they give with that, they take away with Martinelli's injury.
Yeah, Martinelli apparently is in the last 2 or 3 minutes of a training session where he clashed knees with somebody, and now he's going to be out for 4 weeks. And you know that Arsenal are desperate for a Martinelli.
He is. It's sort of someone who wants to play for the team. He wants to play for the club, isn't he? I think we've mentioned this before. I think Arsenal's problem is a lot of players at the club who are just there to pick up a paycheck rather than actually want to play for Arsenal Football Club. That they can get resolved is soon as they're fortunate to get better, really. And again, that's the bad mistake for Arsenal because they started giving out contracts to players that you will scratch your head at, and shows that there's a lot of at board level, at backroom level, above Mikel Arteta, where it's like they're making puzzling decisions, and you've got to question they've got the right people in place in Edu and Raul Sanlelli. Why are they giving out contracts to players? Why are they giving a 1-year extension to David Luiz? Why are they giving a new extension? Why are they giving like a 4-year contract to, is it Cedric Suarez? Why Mari?
I've got a feeling it's going to be a little bit of Leeds 2001 going on with Arsenal.
It's United fans had a problem with, was it Mino Raiola? Was it the agent?
Yeah.
You know, years ago, we seem to be having a problem with. Is it Kia George? I can't even.
Kia Drabchin.
Yeah, how you spell his? How you say his?
Drabchin.
He's the agent that when Arsene Wenger was in charge, he swore that he would never allow him back into Arsenal as long as he was in charge, and he didn't get that until obviously the day that he left. I think I was reading that the reason why that happened was because it was all about Radamel Falcao, and I think Arsenal need to get away, and this is all down to Raul. We were warned that this could happen, but Raul Sanlelli is very much he deals with agents, contacts, and Barcelona. He what's happening is say, like, we want this player, as in like a target, and then that agent goes, well, if you want that player, you're going to have to take this player as well.
Yeah.
Me, and you should never, ever get dictated to.
No, an agent should not be the person in power. As simple as that, isn't it?
Isn't it? So I feel very concerned for Arsenal, and this is where having strong, present owners would stop this, because they should recognise that they shouldn't be run as a club like that, and the people who are in positions within the club are using this methods. They should be then shown the door. Fortunately, with the Kroenkes, they're not present.
Yeah, they see money coming in, so they don't really care. I'm hoping that Arsenal go so tits up that that finances are low and they have no choice but to sell, and then someone comes in and buys Arsenal that actually has football at the helm. Hey, look, right, let's go have a look at the table. So,
which is, I just want one more further point on that.
I'll come back to you on that. I've got the table on the screen. So Liverpool are top of the league. They're only 2 points off winning the title. Man City have got a game in hand us obviously tonight. Leicester, they are in third, with Chelsea in fourth. A victory for Chelsea tonight will only put a point between them and Leicester. Manchester United are currently occupying the fifth spot, which could be a Champions League place. They're level on points with Wolves on 49 points, so Wolves having every chance to get some Champions League football this year. Spurs back in seventh on 45 points. I think it's only really them that can have any real bearing on what can happen with the top four, top five. Down the bottom, really big point for Villa yesterday. That puts them level on points with Bournemouth and West Ham, all on 27 points. West Ham outside the relegation zone on goal difference, 2 goals less than Bournemouth, who are currently in 18th. Watford, a win tonight will get them well away. That will put them 5 points clear of the relegation zone and would have played the same amount of games as everybody else. So looking really good for Watford if they can pick up a result against Burnley. Alex, you're back on the screen, son. Just finish your point of what you were saying about Arsenal there.
So it was just when owners say they see money coming in, also realise that if you are more successful as a club, then you'll see even the old adage of spend more to get more, sort of thing. I know that's not the same.
Yeah, you need money. Yeah, you need money to make money, sort of thing. It's a similar situation, isn't it? You can't just rely on coming top 4 every season, and that will be enough to get some money in, because as it's proven, Arsenal, they're about to go a 4th season without top 4 finish. So
it's this what this is. This is all accumulation of what it's not just the last few seasons, but it was the 5 or 6, 7, 8 seasons before that under Arsene Wenger and the previous and Ivan Gazidis and Kroenke when he first brought it up there, because they allowed, as you say, just to it's okay, we've got top 4. That mentality, it's just snowballed and snowballed, and this is the result of all those years of not really investing in the team, not really investing in specs, everything, just investing in their laurels, and the chickens have come home to roost now, basically.
Yeah, it's not looking good at the Arsenal, but yeah, I'll see Southampton win tonight. But you've been watching 2 Up Top the Sunday. Sunday? Oh, what's going on? Hay fever is absolutely killing me. You can't see on screen, but I've got some hay fever relief wipes that removes the dust traps and pollen. Sitting outside has helped me today, so I'm absolutely panicking just in case it rains on the next show. And how much I will be suffering with my hay fever. But yeah, you'll be able to catch us on all social media at Top Football. Myself and Alex are back on Saturday morning to go through all of tonight's games and also to preview the FA Cup, because it's FA Cup weekend coming up this week. So for myself and Alex Osborn, thank you and goodbye.